Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Brussels. The European Union will consider giving member states more power to dam COVID-19 vaccine exports. European Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen said Wednesday amid a slow rollout of shots and rising infections across the region. Such a move could ratchet up tensions with the UK, which has been the EU's #1 export recipient, but isn't exporting vaccines to the bloc. Ms von der Leyen couldn't rule out using emergency powers within the EU's basic treaties that allow the bloc to cease production in times of severe economic difficulties. The EU last used that power during the oil crisis of the 1970s. We're within the crisis of the century, and that I am not ruling out anything for now because we've to form sure that Europeans are vaccinated as soon as possible, Ms von der Leyen said. So vaccine production and vaccine deliveries within the European Union must have a priority. The EU introduced a mechanism in late January that allowed member states to prevent vaccine doses from being exported outside the bloc. Since then, just one export batch has been halted. Within the EU's vaccination campaigns, lagging far behind those within the UK and the US, pressure has been growing in recent weeks from EU leaders to broaden the utilisation of the export ban or altering it to incorporate vaccine ingredients. However, the EU is thus far backed far away from such advanced concerns. It might trigger retaliatory export bans on the ingredients the pharmaceutical companies within the EU use to form vaccines. Ms von der Leyen said the bloc could consider banning exports to countries that aren't sending vaccines to the EU and whose vaccination campaigns are running before the bloc's. She gave no timeline for creating a choice, saying that it might depend upon the response of nations the EU is exporting to and whether the bloc's vaccine deliveries still rise. The EU expects to receive around 360 million vaccine doses within the second quarter, compared with an expected 100 million within the half moon following an enormous shortfall in deliveries from AstraZeneca plc. Ms von der Leyen said there had been no grounds for taking measures against the US, which received quite 1 million doses from the EU and has continued supplying vital vaccine ingredients to the bloc. EU and US authorities started discussions last week on ways to say their mutual vaccine supply chain opens. Meanwhile, the EU has sent around 10 million vaccine doses to the UK since late January. Other leading destinations for EU-produced vaccines include Canada with 4 million, Mexico at 3 million, Japan at 2.7 million and Saudi Arabia at 1.4 million, consistent with data published last week. The UK government hasn't banned vaccine exports, but under the contracts it's signed with vaccine providers, it's locked in first-come, first-served agreements that have bolstered its own vaccination campaign. Last week, the UK summoned a senior EU diplomat in response to accusations by European Council President Charles Michel that Britain had an outright ban on exports. According to an individual conservant in the method, production of the vaccine developed by Pfizer Incorporated and BioNTech SE within the EU would grind to a halt within weeks if a vaccine war triggered UK bans on raw material exports to the bloc. The firm's EU manufacturing, which is predicted to supply quite half the doses the bloc hopes to receive between April and June, depends on imports from the UK, the US and Canada, the person said. In a recent video conference with Germany, policymakers and industrial leaders that included Chancellor Angela Merkel, BioNTech Chief Operating Officer Sierk Poetting said that boosting the assembly of lipid, an important ingredient in so-called mRNA vaccines, would take up to 8 months and warned against any export restrictions that would endanger the availability. Europe is battling a rebound in coronavirus cases, fueled by the spread of more virulent variants of the virus and prompting some authorities to tighten restrictions again. Also, Wednesday, fallout continued from several governments' decisions to suspend use of the vaccine developed by AstraZeneca on fears it had caused blood clots. Italy and France both agreed to resume rollouts of the vaccine if the EU's top drug regulator maintained support for its use. The regulator is predicted to offer an update on Thursday. Ms von der Leyen said she hopes which will clarify things. "I trust AstraZeneca. I trust the vaccines," she said. Thanks for listening. Please like, comment and subscribe.